What up? What up? Welcome to another session of Sports Talk49 with your hosts, Blake Anthony and Mr. Caleb Big C Benenoch, as always, coming through, giving our perspectives on hot topics going on today, and see what you guys think about it. So, first and foremost, Tampa Bay Buccaneers pick up a new OC finally. They pick up a new OC after all these guys coming in. You got Texas OC guys say, nah, I'm good. I see how y'all do business out there. I want no parts of that smoke. And they finally get their guy, Canales. What do you know about the guy since you recently just played last season and stuff? What's your insight?
I know he worked with Russell Wilson and Geno Smith. Russell was really good with the Seahawks. Geno had his comeback season of the year. Geno was a second round, really, really good at West Virginia, faltered a little bit in the league and got through last year. So I understand the hire, especially with a young quarterback, trying to build him up at Kyle Trask. From everything that we talked about, he had a great interview. He had a great, opening press conference. And so I know the Bucs is really happy about him. And it's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah, what do you think about his philosophy where he's talking about the quarterback? I thought he gave a little bit too much description trying to explain what he wants to do with the quarterback, but he felt he needed to. I mean, it's basic fundamentals of football. He talked about the quarterback being a distributor and saying there are going to be situations where you're going to have to put yourself in harm's way, where you're going to have to make throws downfield, where you're going to have to stand in the pocket. That's what normal quarterbacks do. But for the most part, he just talked about the quarterback being a point guard. Let's talk about it. Chris Paul, like not being the guy where I got to carry everything on my shoulder. You're just a distributor. What do you think about his whole philosophy?
I will say about his philosophy. He talked a lot about the run game, establishing the run, being more run heavy, attacking the run and taking shots when you can and being really, really safe with the football. And everybody sees it so different from what, the risk it, no biscuit that Bruce Arians had, right? And that's like everybody's happy about. They were happy about his answers. That a lot of people from the Tampa community, from what I've heard, didn't like how all out the blue, they didn't like how Byron Leftwich handled things this last year and his answers and stuff like that. And it's interesting, when I heard him speak, my excitement wasn't the same level as the Bucs because at the end of the day, as a coach, how's your team built, right? It's okay to say I want to run the ball a lot and I want to run the ball more, but how's your team built? Who's your stud running back, right? Do you have Dalvin Cook? Do you have a Saquon Barkley? You're going to go get one of those guys in the offseason, right? With the cap space, what do you have? And so for me, it's like you can answer all the questions, right? But are you playing to your strengths? You have currently on the roster Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Those are your stud players, right? You don't have a bell cow back that can take it 25 times a game yet. So I'm really interested to see what he has to do. I understand what he did with Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll, but Pete Carroll was the main officiator of that offense, right? He has great success. Same way Andy Reid is with Pat Mahomes and Russell Wilson and all those things like that. So I think he's going to do a good job, but I'm really interested to see what he has to do going forward. And So I'm really interested in what he has going forward. But I wasn't his first press conference didn't blow me away because you can be really good at interviews and not a good coach and not have a good plan. I want to see what moves they make in the offseason and how they do things before I have my judgment out on him. I think he got the job because he interviewed well and he's a good coach. He's been in the league for a while. And he spoke really, really highly about Kyle Trask, which we've talked about. And again, the jury's still out on Kyle Trask. He had a great last year at Florida. He played amazingly well. And, he hasn't really done much in Tampa, but he hasn't had the opportunity to. Backup quarterbacks don't get much reps, especially when we're behind Tom Brady, right? And so I have been somewhat critical of Kyle Trask, and I'll always admit when I'm wrong. Because earlier in the year, we talked about Jalen Hurts, and is it the team or was it Jalen Hurts? And Jalen Hurts, all he did all season, and especially in the Super Bowl, was prove me wrong. And Jalen Hurts is a superstar. He's a stud, right? So I think I want to take the time to give Kyle Trask his flowers and say, if this coach really believes in him, and what I think, the position I think Tampa is in right now with a new OC, and it feels like they're going to give Todd Bowles a chance to make his own team. So I think this offseason is going to be really, really huge for Tampa because they have two ways to go. They can either say, hey, we're going to try and keep our roster together and trust Kyle Trask to go do what we want him to do and we think he's going to be the guy to lead us to a playoff run, or they have a second option. They can say, hey, we're over the cap. Instead of rearranging our cap space, instead of giving guys bonuses in the offseason, which I know the Glazers don't like to do because they're a little bit more frugal with their money, right? So are the Bucks going to say, hey, we trade Donovan Smith. We find a place to trade Mike Evans or Chris Godwin and get some draft picks for them, free up some cap space, and then let Kyle Trask take the reins. And if Kyle Trask take the reins, you see what the Packers didn't do with Jordan Love, and they're in a stick situation now. Right? So do the Bucks let Kyle Trask take the reins from day one? He's our day one starter, and we see what he can do. From day one to week 17 games. And if we go 4-13, then we know we have to go draft Caleb Williams in the first round. And we have to go find a way to get that first round pick. Or does he play really, really well? And then we know we have a quarterback of the future, and then we build around him. So I think the Bucks are in kind of like this no man land as far as like the NFL goes, because again, people want to think, again, people forget that Tampa for a long time were called the Succaneers. I was on the team that were called the Succaneers, right? And so you're in this place now where it's like, hey, we won the Super Bowl a couple years ago. We went to the playoffs the last 3 years, right? Now we have to start fresh, or we have to keep holding on to this really, really expensive aging roster, right? You got a couple superstars on your team. Devin White's a star. Levante David, star. Older guy. You have Tristan Wirfs, who's up for a contract really, really soon. He's going to be expensive because he's a really, really good player, right? Ryan Jensen's in the twilight of his career. He's a really, really good player, right? So I think the Bucks have a lot of decisions, and how the offseason goes for them is going to let me know what the front office and Jason Licht's thinking and how the rest of the team is going to go. But I think they have two ways to go. You can either go try and get a veteran quarterback and try and see if you can make the veteran squad get it back, or what I would do is give Kyle Trask the reins, let him go, get a veteran backup to back him up in case any injuries happen. See what you have. He's a second-round pick, right? So that's capital. That's money you invested in this guy. See what he has. He's been on the bench for 2 years. See what you have in him. Let him play the season out, ups and downs, mistakes or not. He's got receivers. You know, you have a young running back who kind of shined at the end of the season. You got a solid offensive line, right? We'll see what they do with Shaq Mason. You got a solid offensive line. You're going to get some guys back on defense who were hurt with Shaq Barrett and the rest of these guys, right? And see how they play. And then if he's your guy, then you go forward with him. But if he's not your guy and the season goes badly, then you have a higher draft pick and you can get one of these stud quarterbacks like Caleb Williams. And I think that should be the decision that Tampa should go through, because when this thing in the NFL, right? And everybody wants to win every year because we see the Pat Mahomes going to 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. And we see the Tom Brady is going to 10 Super Bowls in 20 years. And we see all these things and we think that's everybody's standard. It's not, because everybody doesn't have that guy. Even the best quarterbacks, the Joe Burrows, the Josh Allen's never been to the Super Bowl.
Right.
Justin Herbert's not a great quarterback, never been to the Super Bowl, right? So it's like everybody's searching for that top guy. And so I think the Bucs should really go with Kyle Trask, see what you have. I don't know what he has. He was good at Florida his last year. I say you go with him. I say you get into your full rebuilding phase, free up some cap space. You got some expensive veterans who are really, really good players. But at the end of the day, you want to see what your quarterback has and free up cap space so you can go sign big free agents and you can have a high draft pick if it doesn't work out. If it does work out, then you know I got to build around him. So I think the Bucs have a lot of ways to go, and I'm really interested to see where they kind of go with it in the offseason.
I agree totally. Everything you said about letting Trask go as far as finances, you bring in a veteran, or leave or keep Gabbard or whoever you want to leave around, of some type of veteran leadership behind him, and just in case something happens. But yeah, you let him know from the get-go that it's Trask team, so he's not looking over his shoulder 24/7 unless he just plays astronomically bad. Lean on your running back. Maybe get some other security blankets. Maybe you look at another tight end, a passing option, because you got receivers. You got to find a third option to throw to besides just Mike and Chris. But you brought up a good point about young running backs. He spoke on this recently as well. I don't know if you saw this or not. Rashad White recently just posted that on his Twitter account. JC Cardell said they are picking a 19 awkward draft position. They are guaranteed hitting on a cornerback, offensive tackle, edge prospect. drafting a star running back that can take over a game is a good move, in my opinion. The new running back coach will be phenomenal with Bijan. He's talking about Bijan Robinson out of Texas. A little too early to call White a budding star. Of course, Rashad had a response to that. He said, "A little early. You don't give me a 200 plus carries like the other guys you're comparing me to. Then see you just make an assumption, which is okay. But if uncertainty should be because I didn't touch the ball as many times as the other guys, he's absolutely right. When he's gotten in, he's made the best of his time. I thought Keyshawn Vaughn did too. Every time they had to lean on him, they made runs as well. Well, for whatever reason, those guys didn't get a lot of touches. Maybe you can answer that because you are closer to these guys than me. They've made the best of their time. Speaking of Seattle, Rachaad White had his breakout game where he actually made a Seattle Seahawk fly in that game and Germany. So, I mean, what's your opinion?
I love Rachaad White's response, and that's how you should feel as a player. Like, you're underdog, you're coming in, there's a big money guy. Leonard Fournette's making what he's making, like $7-8 million a year ago. Yeah. You're coming in. So his response, I have no problem with. It's completely fine. But as far as management goes, Bijan Robinson from Texas, he looked amazing in Texas, right? I watched him. I'm from Texas. I was a Longhorn fan growing up, so I watched them kind of how they build it. He's a great running back. But at the same time, like, again, this is where Jason Light makes his money, right? It's understanding who the people are to pick. Like, where did I see from Rachaad White? Is he the guy moving forward? Where do we make these pieces? Because, again, they're kind of in no man's land, right? You were 7-9. You have a middle-of-the-road pick. You don't have one of these top guys, right? And the draft always unfolds crazy. There's going to be trades. There's going to be things that happen. The Texans move up, all these things. And so, you can never really predict the draft, but that's what the GM is for, to make the decision on the fly.
Yep.
And you have to decide, hey, like, we've talked about this off air. Like, do you move Tristan Wirfs to left tackle? Do you keep him right? I'd say you keep him right tackle because he's an all-pro right tackle. So I think
if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Don't fix it, right? And so, like, they have a lot of choices to make as far as the future of this team. And making those choices can either leave you in purgatory for a team that's going to be bad or average for the next 10 years, or a team like the Jaguars who literally in 3-4 years went from playing Tom Brady to go to the Super Bowl up until now. We got our quarterback. We got receivers. We got this guy from Atlanta Falcons coming to our team.
Oh,
we spent money offseason. Yeah, and no, not Gage. The one who from Alabama who was betting. But anyway, we got him coming in.
I know you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So, like, again, like, so it's a big offseason for the front office. And I think this is really where you see Tampa's front office either shine or fail. Because, again, like, this team, the whole running back philosophy works when you have Patrick Mahomes, or you have a young Tom Brady, or you have these young guys who are superstar quarterbacks who can carry a team. But Tampa doesn't know who their quarterback is. Tom's not coming back to save anybody, right? And so how do we move forward, right? So I really do think the move is to go with Trask, see what he has. And if it's a bad season, if you win 6-5 games, find a way to go get a top-round pick and find a way to trade capital, whether you keep Mike Evans for another year and package him to get, again, these are my guys. And so it's hard for me to talk about them as far as, like, trade pieces and things like that. But, again, as a front office piece, you have to understand, like, hey, like, I want to set my team up with a star quarterback or with a guy who I think is a franchise quarterback for the long term. And so you have to find out if the second-round pick you have is that guy. The Niners are in the same situation right now. The Niners have Trey Lance. They have Brock Purdy. And Jimmy Garoppolo, they might sign back or he might go to the Jets. And what do? Well, I gave up 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. I need to see what he can do. I spent that much money on him.
At this point,
I got to see what he can do. Right, and so I think the Bucs are kind of in purgatory, and I think they're one of like 3 or 4 or 5 teams who need to just go all in and rebuilding. Tom Brady was a success. I don't care what anybody says. He came to the team. He won a Super Bowl, the first Super Bowl since 2002. So in 20 years, the first Super Bowl. Before that, Tampa didn't win anything. Right, so it was a success. He did the right moves. They won a Super Bowl. They try to keep veterans around him, players around him. He's retired now. You got an aging team, right? Shaq Barrett's an aging player. He's a really, really good rusher. I blocked him. He's fantastic. Aging player. Can you move him and get picks? Donovan Smith, really, really good player. One of my friends. I love him. Can you move him and get picks? Mike Evans. Mike Evans has 9 straight seasons of 1,000 yards. I don't think Mike Evans is going to play with a rookie quarterback and try and figure that out. Do you move him or do you move Chris Godwin? Right? So, like, find a way to get some cap room and move some of these guys and let them go do the twilight of their career and finish their careers off great. And sorry, the screen just changed, but let those guys go finish twilight of their career, and then you get some cap room, and you're in a position now where, hey, I can go have draft picks and hit like the Jets do. The Jets were bad for a long time. Then they hit on Sauce Gardner. They hit on Garrett Wilson. They hit on all the defensive line picks. They signed a veteran like Quan Alexander. Now the defense is amazing. They have the offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year, and their running back, Bryce Young, who got hurt, I think it was a 3rd-round pick. He was going to be the offensive rookie of the year before he got hurt, right? So they hit on all their draft picks. So I think the Bucs' best bet is to go get draft capital for the guys that you have who are stars right now, who are not your cornerstone pieces. Mike Evans, superstar receiver, but he needs a great quarterback, right? He's getting old. He's getting long in the tooth. He's a phenomenal player. He's used to Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston throws bombs, gets the ball down the field, right? I don't know if Kyle Trask is that guy, talent-wise, right? Then he goes to Tom Brady, who's a phenomenal player, the GOAT. We all know this. Gets the ball. You can get a first-round. Look what Tyreek Hill went for a year ago. Like 5 picks.
A boatload.
2 first-rounders, a couple third-rounders, whatever it was. You can get a lot for Mike Evans. I know it's hard because, again, he's a Tampa staple, great in the community. But I think the front office, I think about that stuff right now. Instead of still holding on to past success, which is the last 3 years of Brady, I think you blow it up. The pieces you can get places for, pay Tristan Wirfs' money, trade Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, find a place for them, get some draft picks for these guys, see what Kyle Trask can do. You have a young offensive line, aside from Tristan Wirfs is young, aside from Donovan Smith and Ryan Jensen, the O-line is young. So see what these guys can do, move them around, get some draft picks for the pieces you can get for, and see what Kyle Trask has. And if he's not the guy, then you're in position to get one of these really, really good quarterbacks. Because I'm a fan of the guy from Alabama, Bryce Young, right? Yeah. I'm a fan of his, but Tampa doesn't have the first 2 picks. He's going to be gone by then, right? You have the guy, C.J. Stroud from Ohio State. He's going to be gone in the top 5 picks. Tampa don't have those picks. And then the next guy from the consensus is the guy from Kentucky. He's coming off the ACL. He's not going to be ready for the season to start. So you don't want to go take a flyer on him that year when you drafted and then late first round when you drafted a guy early first round the last year. So I think you go with Kyle Trask, see what he has, and if he's that guy, he'll show it. Trevor Lawrence had a horrible first year with his coach, right? With
a horrible head coach.
But he showed enough to where it's like, hey, like this guy got skills. And then he gets a good head coach. You get some pieces around him. You get Christian Kirk. You get Evan Ingram. You get the kid, not the kid, he's a grown man, but from Detroit. And then you see how he spreads the ball out and how they compete with the Chiefs, how they come back and beat the Chargers. And so I think you see what it is. And if it doesn't go well, then you can move forward. But I think the worst thing the Bucs front office can do right now is holding on to the last 3 years because you don't have Tom Brady anymore, right? It's a whole new fresh start. And I think these coaches will get a break because they understand, like, you're with a rookie, right? Todd Bowles was part of the Super Bowl winning team, right? The scapegoat offensive coordinator's gone. You got a new OC. See what you have with these young guys, right? Try and show progress. Try and make things happen, and then see where it goes from there. Because I think that's the way to go for the Bucs.
No, I think you pretty much played out all the blueprint for everything. You know, a lot of people have the consensus that they should sign Derek Carr. I'm like, you're in cap purgatory right now.
You don't have
Everybody's
Yeah, the Saints don't either. Saints don't have the cap room. And I know the Bucs owners. They don't want, because again, a lot of things people don't understand. When you see people rework their deals, it's like, oh, this guy reworked his deal so they can sign this guy. When somebody reworks their deal, all that means is if Mike Evans reworks his deal, he's supposed to make $20 million this year. He reworks his deal, they give him $19 million in a signing bonus, and it takes it off the cap. He gets $1 million for it.
You're just moving the number.
Just moving the numbers, right? He's still paying that money. And I know the Bucs owners, the Glazers, don't want to pay that money, right?
Nope. That's why they keep moving it.
Exactly. So they still own Manchester United, right? So again, like you got to understand like how the business works, and this is right now it's a business, and so I think the Bucks' best chances are see what you have with Kyle Trask. He was a second-round pick. Same thing that Green Bay Packers are going with right now. With do we pay Aaron Rodgers $60 million and trade him, or do we go Jordan Love? Well, we haven't seen that for Jordan Love, right? Well,
Nope.
now you know Tom is not coming back, so go with Kyle Trask. Don't try and put a Band-Aid on it, and don't try and get one of these veteran quarterbacks. You don't have enough money for Derek Carr. Derek Carr is going to garner $40 million. Someone's going to get that money. Bucks don't have that cap room to give it to him. And if you get rid of Mike Evans, Donovan Smith, Mike Evans, Donovan Smith, and other guys, then what are you leaving with Derek Carr? Right? He's not he's not one of these guys who's going to elevate a crappy team. You know what I mean? So, like, again, like I say the Bucks blow it up, free up some cap room. Your vets, they brought you a Super Bowl. They brought the city a Super Bowl. This city is as great as it's ever been. It was a great time. I say blow it up, trade, get pieces you can get, because you have a lot of stars, you know, who are under 30 or just at 30. So I say go do that, see what Kyle Trask has, and if it goes well, it goes well. Then you don't have to find pieces, and you have the cap room to find pieces. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a free agent soon. I think he's going to be out of Arizona. You know, I think there's a lot. Stephon Diggs has been in a lot of trade talks. You know, Dak Prescott might be on the move. So I think you just go with it and see how it is next offseason, and then go from there. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. You got to wait and see how everything plays out, because Tampa's not the only team that's talking about all these moves going to happen. There's going to be a lot of other people trying to upgrade their team, trying to get better at certain spots. So that means changes. It means guys aren't going to want to take pay cuts in certain teams, and teams are going to release them to free up money to better their team. So it's like you said, it's not just there's 31 other teams trying to make their team better as well. And you're going to see what
there's probably about 27 other teams.
Yeah, they're all going to try to make changes.
Yeah, it's a couple of teams, and again, it's the NFL, man. It's professional sports. It's very few teams that can it's a new NFL, right? It used to be running backs back in the day. Now it's a quarterback league. Very few teams have quarterbacks who, I'm not taking calls from you. Eagles aren't taking calls to Jalen Hurts. The Chiefs aren't taking calls for Mahomes. You know, the Chargers aren't taking calls for Justin Herbert. Joe Burrow, they're not taking calls about him, right? Trevor Lawrence not taking calls about him. Even the Ravens, Lamar Jackson's a league MVP. And the Ravens are in a situation, which we're going to talk about, where they have to take calls about their quarterback because they can't come to a situation about they can call, you know what I'm saying? Like they can't come to a situation about their quarterback as far as money goes. You know, the Browns have a big year ahead of them because they paid their quarterback a fully guaranteed contract and he has to go perform. They need him to go perform or it's going to be, you know what I'm saying? And so there's probably 6-7 teams where it's like, hey, this is our quarterback, this is how we're moving, and we have to build around him. Every other team should be trying to find ways to make moves because that's the new NFL. Now guys are moving around, especially quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are moving around. The Rams did it. You know, they had Jared Goff, who they paid a $160 million contract to when it was a big deal to get that much money. And they traded him a year later to go get Matthew Stafford. And then they won the Super Bowl because of it. They went to the Super Bowl, missed it the next year, and they said, we're going to trade our quarterback. We're going to get 2 first-round picks. They won a Super Bowl now. So the Rams, I think, are in the same situation as the Bucks are, where it's like, hey, we have an aging team. We have Aaron Donald who's a star. We have Jalen Ramsey who's a star. But our team wasn't competitive this year. So how do we move forward? Do we have to move these pieces, you know, go with younger guys? And if we have a bad season, do we go pick a quarterback high in the draft? And so it's going to be really interesting to see this offseason.
No, yeah, like I said, you hit everything right on the head. Can't wait for it to come up to see what everything that happens. So we see what teams are going in what direction, and like you said, it's going to kind of depict where they're thinking into the draft, where they want to do with their team, especially teams like Tampa Bay, who's in that cap conundrum, and you got veterans, stars of tomorrow, or they stars of today. Situation: who you want to keep, who you got to go, use draft collateral. But yeah, they're the Glazers and Jason Light are going to have quite the thought process on what they want to do this offseason as far as moving cap around. I do like how you mentioned maybe trade Shaq Mason because you got so many young guards. They got to play eventually.
Yeah, Shaq's got a 1-year deal, so they have to make a decision about him. And for me, you know, it depends on how Shaq values himself. Again, another friend of mine, and how the Bucks.
Shaq was traded. They traded for Shaq. I think he got another year.
I thought he had 1 year left on his deal when they traded for him.
We could pull that up, but go on what you were saying.
Yeah, I think it's just those are the decisions you have to make where it's like, hey, Shaq is a good player, veteran guy. He's in his 30s, right? But he's a good, solid player. You know what to expect from Shaq. He played well this year. He wasn't one of the problems in the offense this year, right? So it's like, hey, Shaq, does Shaq want to hit free agency and try and get $11 million, or can we get him for 7 or 8, right? So those are the choices. This is where I think a lot of times a lot of blame goes to players and how things happen, but this is where front offices and coaching staffs make their money. One thing that the Eagles did, right, and I'm going to give the Eagles their flowers again. The Eagles, the last couple off seasons, they went to Super Bowl. They had the quarterback from North Dakota State, Carson Wentz, right? He played amazing. He gets injured, right? He was having an MVP season, gets injured, and Nick Foles wins the Super Bowl, right? They fire the coach. They keep the same GM. 3 or 4 years later, they're back in the Super Bowl because they drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round. Everybody said Jalen Hurts is awful. You know, he didn't succeed at Alabama. He had to transfer, this, that, and the other. He didn't play very well his first year. He lost it the second year. Third year, they're back in the Super Bowl again, right? So this is where the front office makes their money with certain picks, with certain moves, with certain things that they do. And we've seen teams hit on draft picks. Like the Jets killed last year's draft, and you can see it. The Seahawks killed last year's draft. They got 2 tackles, a left and a right tackle in the 4th and 5th round, who are probably 10-year starters now, right? They got a defensive back in the 3rd round who was like a backup or wherever school he was at. Now he's a starter, right? So it's like this is what you see where the front office comes into play and how they make their money, because it's really, really important for the front office of Tampa to make the right choices and not miss on draft picks, especially when you have a lot of picks to go. Like, so I'm really interested to see how those guys do it.
Yeah, Shaq's under contract next year. He'll be 30.
Okay. Yeah. So that's good. So again, like I said, so you know who your center is, you know who your right guard is, you know who your right tackle is, right? You're not moving to Shaq Mason in year 10 to left guard when he's played right guard his whole career, right? I don't think you should move Tristan Wirth, who's been a 2-time All-Pro in 3 years, right, to left tackle, right? So what do? Do we trade Donovan Smith? Because again, I've seen talk again. This is my friend, so I'm going to give that caveat because I don't want to, you know, I'm saying like I don't want to be biased, right? But did you release somebody who you know is a starting NFL left tackle for 9 years for free, or do you find a way to trade him for another piece, or whether it's a 5th round pick, a 6th round pick, a 3rd round pick, you need to get something for him, right? If you're going to make that move, and so it's going to be really, really interesting to see how the Bucs handle it, how the Bucs front office handle it. But this is the best part about football, the business aspect that a lot of fans don't realize. Like, this is when those guys make their money, right? This is when those guys make those choices that see how your team is going to be for the next 10 years. Because the Eagles have a great front office. The Chiefs have a great front office. Right? And those are teams, the Patriots, again, like I said, a lot of teams lose a superstar quarterback, and they're awful for years. Big Ben retired.
They never recover.
How are the Steelers been since Big Ben retired? Not very good. The Miami Dolphins have been looking for a franchise quarterback since Dan Marino. You know, you can say Tua played great when he was healthy, but he's not healthy anymore, right? He's been a lot of injuries and a lot of things have happened. They didn't win their game, right? Baltimore lucked out on Joe Flacco, but they've struggled since they had Trent Dilfer. Like, they built the team around defenses, but again, defense doesn't win you championships anymore. That's not the NFL. The Niners go to the NFC Championship every single year, but can't get over that hump because they don't have a quarterback. So how does the front office make those choices and move forward? And so this is when they make their money. And it's like, I get so excited about this stuff because like the NFL is so much bigger than the season. It's like it's the ultimate team sport, man. Every little single detail matters at every level. Everybody has to do their job and do it well. You have to draft well. You have to pick well. The Bengals were awful, and then they was like, "Oh, I'm drafting Joe Burrow." People told Joe Burrow. People forget. People told Joe Burrow to hold out and not go and wait a year to not go to the NFL. Don't go to the Bengals. He's like, "I'm from Ohio. I'm going to the Bengals." And in 1 year, the Bengals went from an awful team to going to the Super Bowl that quick because they made the right pick. Right?
Yep.
So how do you get up exactly? So how do you get that done? So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yep, because Joe gets hurt. Unfortunately, it was a former teammate of his he got hurt by, and Chase Young. They played together at Ohio State. Ironically, hurts his knee. Then the conundrum was in the draft: do the Bengals draft his buddy Jamar Chase, or do they protect him and get the offensive lineman from Oregon? And they decided they went with Chase.
And look how it worked out.
Yeah.
Because everybody said they were wrong, and people forget about that. Everybody said, no, you got to draft Penei Sewell. You got to draft Penei Sewell. And Joe Burrow, I remember, again, through the grapevines, and I always give you little nuggets here. But through the grapevines, Joe Burrow said, man, give me Jamar Chase. I know him. We have a connection. People forget, Jamar Chase didn't play his last season in college football.
Nope.
He did not play a game. That was the COVID year. Jamar Chase didn't play one game that year. So the last game they saw him was as a sophomore in the national championship. And Justin Jefferson was a star of the national championship.
Yeah. Justin
Jefferson went the year before him after Minnesota traded, I think, their 18th pick to the Bills for Stephon Diggs.
Right.
18th and 19th pick. So they swapped picks. They sent us on Stephon Diggs to the Bills. They drafted Justin Jefferson. Jamar Chase that next year went like number 4, number 5. Everybody was like, no, you have to get Penei Sewell. Get Penei Sewell. He needs offensive lineman. They get him, and Joe Burrow figures out a way to make it work with him and Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon. They go to the Super Bowl. So, again, getting on draft pick is really, really important, and that is the mark of a good front office. And so it's going to be fun to watch.
Yep, they made all the right moves, made the right connections, and here you are. Bengals up here fighting for a championship, not knocking on the door. Got to get past those three-headed monster, the Bills, the Chiefs, and not beating themselves. So it's gonna be fun. Titans keep on making a close race too. They got to figure out their quarterback situation as well. The Titans are always competitive out there, but otherwise than that, I don't see anybody else besides those big three. They're always giving them. Well, the Ravens don't know what they're going to do now with the quarterback position, so we'll see where they're at as far as the franchise. But this offseason, this is probably going to be one of the biggest off seasons in a while. I know everybody says that every year, but this one I think really is there's a lot of movement that's going to happen as far as trades, free agents. Oh, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, the last few off seasons in the NFL have been huge because again, the NFL has been always about it's the shield first, players next, fans third, right? And basketball switched on a long time ago since like Magic Johnson, where it's the players first. And I think the NFL is kind of making that transition a little bit at a time. And it starts with the quarterbacks. And these quarterbacks are making moves where teams are like, hey, man, like to win an NFL game, to win a Super Bowl, you need an elite quarterback or a very, very good quarterback and pieces around him. And so I think it's going to be big. Aaron Rodgers is up for a move if it happens. You know, Derek Carr is crazy. Derek Carr is definitely moving. Lamar Jackson might sit out a year or might move. The Ravens got a conundrum. And so, like, I think it just adds to the game, the fact that these guys are taking their stand. And I love the fact that Lamar Jackson didn't just sign a contract. He goes, no, this is what I'm worth. This is what you're going to sign me at. If not, move me. Right? And so it's so fun for me to see players taking their stand. And, like, the more money comes in with these TV deals and all these deals going on, I think the more you're going to see players like, hey, man, I made $30 million last year. Right? And it sounds crazy to everybody else who's not in this world. So I have to kind of give you guys that information, right? Like, Daniel Jones is either going to make $35 million next year, or $45 million next year, right? And we all can agree Daniel Jones is not a top 5 quarterback. Patrick Mahomes making $45 million next year. But that is the going rate for a player in this position. So stop thinking about the money. It's the market. Understand the market of players and what's going on and the money the NFL is making. So stop thinking about, oh, this player makes this, he has to do this. No, this is the market for what's going on because of what the market is and what players are doing and how much money the NFL is making. And so I like players standing their ground and being like, hey, I'm worth this. Either pay me or move me. And everybody doesn't get that luxury, right? You know, everybody's not a Trent Williams. Everybody's not a Joe Burrow, not a Patrick Mahomes. But those guys who are in that position who can stand on it and be like, hey, I'm worth this, do this or move me. There was a podcast I watched with A.J. Brown, and he was talking about Jalen Hurts. And A.J. Brown said, hey, man, if the Eagles don't sign Jalen Hurts this offseason, he says, wherever you trade him to, go ahead and trade me to there too, because I'm not playing for anybody else. right? That's the kind of weight that a star quarterback who teammates trust and people love. That's what they can do, right? And he literally said, Howie Roseman, I think, is the GM at the Eagles, and AJ Brown said, Howie, get the deal done, because if you trade him and he leaves, just go ahead and send me there too, because he played with Ryan Tannehill, and Ryan Tannehill is a good quarterback. Don't get it twisted. Ryan Tannehill's been a starter since he got to the NFL. He was in Miami first. He was a receiver at A&M, played quarterback his last year, got drafted, I think, in the second round to Miami, then got traded to the Titans. He's been a starting quarterback his whole career in the NFL. And Jaylen Brown said, no, I want to go play with this guy. So if you're going to move him, move me too. And so, I love that players have this power and this stuff's going on. And as a fan, if you're a fan of the game, you should not just pay attention to just the sport, pay attention to the business aspect of it and understand everything. And it makes it so much more exciting for you, because I love it. I love it a lot.
No doubt. Yeah, the players are starting to push back. And we talk about that all the time, especially with media. Now you're doing it as front office moves. These guys want to play. You want competitive football, then you got to put me in situations I want to be in. We're not just agreeing to whatever. And that's basically what Lamar Jackson, I believe Lamar represents himself as well as far as his agent, if I'm not mistaken.
His family, yeah.
I think what the Ravens might do is they might franchise tag him. I've said this a lot this offseason. You go get Cunningham out of Louisville, somebody he trains with Lamar all the time. That's somebody he's already familiar with, the way he plays and the style and things like that. Or everybody's connected with Anthony Richardson out of Florida. So I don't know. I don't know what the Ravens are thinking now.
So let me tell you guys something, because it's been a big deal about Lamar Jackson representing himself and being his own agent, him and his mom. He's not the first. Richard Sherman did that his last 5 or 6 years. There was a left tackle for the Houston Texans who did that for himself. Dwayne Brown did it for himself. There's been a few players in the NFL who represent themselves. I think Leonard Tunsil did the same thing, right? There's certain guys who it's just not a big deal until it's a big deal. And people you don't have an agent, so you don't know. And that's the whole idea is you're an athlete, you don't know how the business works. No. People understand how the business works. I know what I'm worth, right? Lamar Jackson, I'm going to say this about Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson was an MVP at 22 years old.
Yeah.
His second year in the NFL. He's looking at the landscape, right? And he's seeing this. He goes, Dak Prescott got $70 million his first year out of it. So again, the Baltimore Ravens waited until Lamar played his 5th year. They could have offered him a contract after his MVP year.
They should have.
Kansas City, after Patrick Mahomes won a Super Bowl, they got the contract in the next offseason. And he gave them a team-friendly deal. The Cowboys waited, and Dak Prescott said, no, I need all my money. I was a 4-star draft. I need all my money, right? So if you want to wait till guys run out their contract, then you're scrapped. The Giants didn't pick up Daniel Jones' 5th-year option. Now they're sitting there okay, we went to the playoffs. Do we want to go backwards and try to find a quarterback? Yeah. Or do we pay this guy $32 million and somebody else steals him? Or do we pay him $45 million? Because you pay him $45 million, he goes to playoffs again. Guess what? Now that's where the contract starts now. Yeah. Right? And so, again, this is all moves that you're getting mad at players for, but it's front office decisions that lead to these things. And so, I love what Lamar's doing. I love the fact that he's standing on his ground. Because, again, Deshaun Watson was out the league for 2 years. The running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
What, Najee?
No. Before Najee.
Oh, Le'Veon Bell.
Le'Veon Bell sat out the league for a year. And he was like, I need $17 million. The Jets gave him $17 million a year. Now, did he fall off a cliff because the team was different? Yes. But so what? He got his money. Because somebody's going to pay you that money. Right? I don't think Lamar plays on that franchise tag. Because if Lamar wanted to play, he would have played this season. Dudes will play hurt when you show them love, when you give them guarantees, when when you show them love that they show you. So again, the NFL is about the shield, it's about the teams, and a lot of fans are all about their teams and not about the players. So players have to think about themselves. And so I think we're seeing, and it's really, really fun to see. And I love these guys standing on their stuff. But guys, we have to stop thinking about the money, because that's what the market value is. Nobody talks about NBA money. Nobody talks about the fact that LeBron has not signed whether or not he was a chip, LeBron is making $60, $70 million a year from the Lakers, plus his endorsements. You know, Russell Westbrook, you can call him trash all you want to. Russell Westbrook made $47 million from the Lakers last year. He was coming off the bench. That's what I'm worth. That's what you're willing to pay me. That's a going rate for my services, right? And so it's fun. I love it. I love these guys making their money. I love seeing dudes making their bread. And it's just like, it's such a, if you think about it from big picture, not just like, oh, this guy is doing my team dirty. No, he's getting what he's worth, right? And these guys are going to get what they're worth. And if you're a smart businessman, if you're a smart front office, you go to these guys. When you see talent in somebody, you go to them early. You sign them early. You pay them early. I hope next year the Jags pay Trevor Lawrence early because Trevor Lawrence.
Out the way.
Yeah. They're already talking about Joe Burrow has at least 2 years off his contract. I guarantee you Joe Burrow's going to sign a contract. He's going to sign a contract this offseason, right? Jalen Hurts is going to get like $55, $60 million. Why? Because he was a second-round pick. He has a fifth-year option. Now you guys are strapped because you're not going to let him go because you're going to start from square one again, right? Josh Allen has not won anything. He got $250 million like a year ago. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, hey, you have to understand how this business works, how these players works. And so Lamar is doing his best for him. He's got a $250 million lottery ticket. And he should sit on that and be like, hey, y'all got to pay me this because Lamar Jackson doesn't have a number one receiver.
Never had one.
Right? He is a tight end, and he is a stable of running backs. And he made that work. Lamar Jackson wins 70% of his games in the NFL. That's unreal. It's unreal to win that many games in the NFL. He's up there with Tom Brady, Pat Mahomes, Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo wins a lot of games, right, when he's healthy. He's up there with all those guys, and it's like, hey, this is what I'm worth. Deshaun Watson got $230 million guaranteed.
And they play.
And he doesn't have half the career that I have.
Yeah.
Say what you want about it. Deshaun Watson is super talented. Super, super talented. He's had a lot of great seasons, but he wasn't winning games like I was winning games. He didn't win an MVP at 22, right? Yeah. So this is what we deserve, right? So stop attacking players and understand how the business works and how this stuff goes.
Nope, that is. But that's why we're here, man. We talk about the educated opinions on stuff versus the uneducated opinions of others that just speak as far as fandom or just asinineness or whatever. So that's why we speak with educated stuff with actual facts and knowledge behind them. And that's why we're here to talk about those. A pro's opinion and a non-pro's opinion about these and see where it fits in. So, but yeah, I'm happy to see that. So let's switch gears a little bit. I think we beat up the contracts and all that. We talk about what we were having a little debate about here. Your boy Kevin Durant, Mr. Cupcake Championships.
Come on, bro. I'm not taking no Kevin Durant slander. Kevin Durant, listen. Kevin Durant is a top 5 basketball player of all time. Top 10.
I agree.
Top 10 basketball player of all time.
Okay, I agree with that.
Everybody has a debate about where do you rank the older guys and like the Bill Russells and things like that. The game evolves. Things change. Athletes get bigger, faster, stronger. When I look at guys in high school, for myself, guys in high school are way more advanced than I was. And any professional who's being real with themselves will admit the same thing. It's a reason why you have more rookies starting than anything else in the NFL. The Kansas City's whole back end was rookies, right? Because guys get better, they get bigger, they get faster, they get stronger. It's the same reason why if you're anybody who's a dad out there, right? You can probably used to beat your kid at basketball in the backyard up until he was like 20 years old. Now when he gets to 15, you can't handle your kid anymore, right? Kids get bigger, they get faster, they get stronger, the game gets better, it evolves. We have to let that go. We have to let the game evolve and let that go with us. Kevin Durant's an amazing player. I'll give you a little stat, and I'll talk about Russell Westbrook too. Kevin Durant went to the finals when he was at OKC, and he lost the finals. And people talk trash about him because he lost the finals. LeBron lost the finals too, his first year in the finals. Kevin Durant led that team. He is an MVP. He goes to Golden State, and people want to be like, oh, he wasn't the bus driver. He wasn't the leader of that team. It was Steph Curry's team. Steph Curry and his team knew that they were not beating LeBron James and Kyrie Irving if Kevin Durant wasn't there. He won back-to-back Finals MVPs. He scored the most points. He was the best player on those teams. So to say that he wasn't leading the team, whatever, that's all. It's innuendo. It's up in the air. I don't care about none of that. But
that's what Draymond Green said. That's from a player on the team.
But that's talking trash, though. And we talk trash. I'm your friend. I can go talk trash to you a certain way, and that's a personal thing. I can say something to you that a person who's watching cannot know, and you can understand that between me and you, right? But that's personal talk between two people who are business partners now and who are friends now. Draymond Green, LeBron James. Draymond Green called LeBron the D word. And now they're best friends. They have Globus Tequila together, and they're friends because they understand, like, dude, this is the heat of the game. It's the heat of battle. We talk trash. We say what we got to say, get in each other's head. But Kevin Durant's an all-time player. He has 2 rings, 2 Finals MVPs. How many guys can say that? Not a lot. How many guys can say, like, if you talk to anybody about who's the hardest guy to guard in NBA history, Kevin Durant. Kobe Bryant said, like, man, like, I knew Kevin Durant's rookie year, I could force him to the left because he wasn't good at shooting on his left side. He goes, by the time he was in year 5, I had no answers for him. Kobe Bryant's an all-time defender. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like we have to stop making our own narratives about things and putting our legends up on a pedestal because, again, like the game changes, the game evolves, people get better.
I get that.
Better. You have to appreciate it. If you're going to sit here, if Luka Doncic wins 3 rings, Luka Doncic is going to be a top 10 player of all time because Luka Doncic does things. Look at the best defenders of all time. Kawhi Leonard is considered the best defender of all time. People won't agree with that. Paul George is a great wing defender, right? Kawhi Leonard and Paul George have not beaten Luka Doncic in a series. Luka Doncic is scoring 50 points, 15 assists, 10 rebounds in a game. He's losing the series. Are you blaming Luka Doncic for that? Are you blaming LeBron James when he scored 28 points in the 4th quarter in that series against the Spurs? Are you blaming him for that? No, you're not, right? And so we have to understand, like, again, I understand we have our heroes and we have people that we put on a pedestal, but at the same time, understand that the game evolves and these things change and, like, people are getting better and better and better and better and better. And so, like, respect it. Kevin Durant, he's not like the rest of us, right? Like, we all think, like, oh, it's all about championships and legacy and being whatever it is. If Kevin Durant only cared about winning, he would have stayed in Golden State. Because if Kevin Durant stayed in Golden State, guess what? He'd probably have 4 or 5 championships by now.
But Kyrie sold him that dream of the Brooklyn thing. Let's go get Ben Simmons. Let's go team up.
I understand that. But if Kevin thought only about, hey, I want to amass as many championships as possible,
he had it right there in OKC. You had the big 3. You had James Harden. You had Russell Westbrook. You had it already.
James Harden was a 6th man.
James At that time. And James Harden changed the franchise alone. He put Houston in relevancy.
What did James Harden win?
A bunch of scoring titles, but no rings.
No. But what did he win, though?
I mean, nothing. No titles.
Okay, thank you. Right? Yeah. So James Harden leaves because OKC was stingy with their money, and Houston paid James Harden $5 million more than OKC did, and James Harden left to go to Houston, and then he became a big star. Kevin Durant goes to OKC. He goes, hey, I can't win with this. He goes win back-to-back titles. He didn't win his 3rd title, but he had his Achilles injury. First of all, Kevin Durant hurt his Achilles in a game, took a game off, came back knowing he had an Achilles injury, then tore his Achilles. Then Klay Thompson got hurt in the game, and they lost the game. So people have to stop having a revisionist history and understand how the stuff worked. All that stuff happened. If he wanted to just keep winning rings, he would have stayed in OKC. But he didn't, because for him, he's chasing something that we can't understand. He's chasing a happiness that we can't understand. Everybody's always thinking about, oh, Jordan, Kobe, and everybody has this whole thing. There's like, oh, like only championships matter. Michael Jordan doesn't have the most championships in the NBA.
No.
He doesn't have the most MVPs in the NBA.
No.
He doesn't have the scoring title, but he's our GOAT. Why is he our GOAT? Because we remember moments, we remember his mentality, remember certain things, but everybody forgets about that. Michael doesn't really have any records in the NBA, but he's everybody's NBA GOAT, right? So why do we think about it that way and then crucify somebody else for moving teams. Those years of Kobe and Dirk and Michael staying in one team for 20 years, Michael went to a different team. Michael took a break in the middle of his prime.
Yes.
Right? And I still think he's the GOAT, but he took a break in the middle of his prime. Right? So stop criticizing these guys for moving teams. LeBron moved teams 4 times. He went to Miami, right? He went to Cleveland, Miami, back to Cleveland, then to LA, right? And like he talks about his best championship ever was when he went back to Cleveland. That's his hometown. Right? And so it's like, dude, stop criticizing these guys. Kevin went to a team, and if you look at the records, when Kevin, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving played together, they were like 19-2. When him and Kyrie played together, they were like 24-2. Guys were hurt. People weren't playing in games. There was a lot of extenuating situations that happened while they were playing. And so stop criticizing this guy for trying to find his happiness and trying to live through this guy and just understand, like, dude, like, this is a great player we are watching. This is a great player. How many rings did Larry Bird win? Well, we're talking about it. How many rings did he win? How many rings did Pistol Pete Maravich win when people want to put him in? How many rings, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, hey, like, I understand that people that you watch when you're young who meant a lot to you are great players and they mean a lot to you in your childhood. But understand that the game is evolving and the game is changing. Like, when I go watch Reggie White's videos, right, and all the old heads are going to come for me after this because you're going to clip this, right? Reggie White is over there clubbing dudes and getting sacks every single time he clubs dudes. When I watch that tape, and I've talked to this about Gerald McCoy, I've talked to this about every other defensive player and other offensive players, all I see is offensive linemen having bad technique. I don't see Reggie White making great plays. I see guys, I'm like, why are they leaning on him? Because when I take it past it, I'm not going to sit there and lean on defensive linemen. I'm going to sit there, take it past it, and use my hands, right? When I was in middle school, when I was in, like, Little League, they taught us to block defensive linemen with our forearms. We used to have shiver pads. The game changed. Now you use your hands, right? I used to wear shiver pads in Little League. Now you use your hands. It used to be cool to have marks on your forehead, on your helmet, because that shows you're physical. Now it's like, oh, no, you have no marks on your hands. You're a good offensive lineman because you keep your head out of it. And you're not getting concussions every single play.
Right.
It changes, right? And so respect the greats, respect the people that came before you, but don't sit here and be like, oh, these guys are soft and this game has changed. Kevin Durant's a great player. He's living his life for himself and not for the appreciation of none of us. And so to judge him on that, to me, is stupid. I think him and Phoenix have the best chance to win a championship like anybody else. And I will say this because people were like, oh, Kevin Durant went to Phoenix. Phoenix had the best record in the last few years. What did they win? They get swept in the finals by the Bucks.
I want to see Chris Paul get one, but
Chris Paul didn't win anything.
No, I just say I want to see him get one.
Devin Booker scored 70 points in a loss.
Yep.
They don't have anything. Whatever team Kevin Durant goes to, he's the best player. Unless he goes to the Bucks with Giannis, he's the best player on that team.
Right.
Right? Or he goes to the Mavs, and you can argue Luke and Kevin Durant. But he's the best player on that team. He's averaging 31 points a game when he's healthy.
Yeah.
So again, like, dude, like, he's great. Let him be great. Enjoy the games. Enjoy the fun of it. Enjoy the point score. Because again, if we put up games right now from the 1980s when people are scoring, if the score is 75-81, nobody's watching it because nobody was watching it back then.
Right.
And everybody wants to forget. The NBA was losing money before Magic and before Showtime Lakers. They were losing money. People weren't coming to those games. Now it costs $60,000 to get a courtside seat when LeBron is scoring the last point to break the record.
Crazy, right?
$6,000 would have bought you the Lakers' whole franchise when Magic was. So let's stop this whole thing about players and like all stuff like that. The game evolves and appreciate greatness. And it's hard to compare eras, but if you want to compare eras, compare them to their greatness and to how they fit players in their era and the players how they do what they do, and then appreciate it. So for me, like, you know, we talk about stuff all the time off the air, but it bothers me how people do that stuff. It's just like, dude, like, these guys are great, man. Kevin Durant is doing what he does. Everybody can't win 5, 6, 7 championships. This doesn't happen.
Why not?
Let's talk about that today.
Why can't we get Big Shot Bob 6 rings?
How many people in the NBA today have more than 3 rings, other than Steph Curry? Other than the Warriors, how many guys who have more than 3 rings? I'll wait. Take out LeBron, take out Steph Curry, and take out the Warriors team. Who else?
Only person close is Kawhi, and ain't nobody else.
Kawhi has 2.
That's what I say, close.
Okay, so nobody else. Steph Curry is top 10 all time because he changed the game. Kevin Durant, to me, is top 10 all time. LeBron James is like a top 3 guy all time. So you take those guys out. Who else has more? Klay Thompson's not a top 10 guy. He's a top 3 shooter, right? He was he came along the way and he helped the game a lot.
Right.
Draymond Green played his role. But as far as the top 10 guys in the NBA, how many guys have more than 3 rings? None. So like this whole idea, like that it's like, oh, like if you don't win 6, 7 rings, you're not a great player. No, let's stop it. Charles Barkley's a great player. He won no rings.
Beast.
Dan Marino's a great quarterback. He won no rings. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like we got to stop this whole thing and this idea, like, oh, like you got to be on the same team for 20 years. That's not the game anymore.
Nope.
That's not how it works. People forget when Terry Bradshaw was playing in the NFL, there was no free agency. So I can just have my guys on my team. I can pay them whatever. So if I got Mean Joe Green, I got this guy, I got Lynn Swann, I got all these guys. They have to stay on my team. There's no free agency. You can't leave and get more money elsewhere. You have to be here and I have to pay you whatever I pay you. But you have to work a regular job. So people forget all these things. When Bill Russell was playing, he won 11 championships. It was 8 teams in the NBA. 8 teams. Nobody was over 7 foot. They used to work regular jobs.
Yep.
Right? They weren't training full time. And so it's like understand how the game evolves and stop thinking that like just because this guy's your hero, they're like, oh, this is the golden era of this. No, the game evolves. People get better. People get stronger, faster. Victor Wembanyama, he's 6'5", right? He has handles. He can shoot from 3. When he gets to the NBA, he might be better than Kevin Durant. Am I going to be like, oh, Victor Wembanyama is trash because Kevin Durant did this? If he never wins a ring? No, he's talented. He can play, right? Dirk Nowitzki was one of the first white boys who was out here like giving people buckets. And I remember somebody told me like, oh, the best non-American player was such and such. No, dude. Dirk Nowitzki won an NBA championship.
That was that dude.
This was a star. Dirk Nowitzki beat Shaq and Dwayne Wade in the NBA Finals. Like that happened, right?
So the
game evolves, bro. We have to talk about that. And stop living in the past. The game evolves. People get better. People get stronger. People get faster, and we have to appreciate them.
No doubt. You definitely got to do that. You got to appreciate the moments that you have in these players because it's not forever. Just like the league, not for long. It's not forever.
No.
Hopefully, a lot of these guys get to play out their full careers, so you get to see how everything plays out. And some people are shortening their careers by injuries and whatever else happens in their life and things like that. But I know that's your big thing. You got to harp on the moments that you have. You got to harp on these guys because it's not. You don't get these guys every day. You'll get a lot of pretenders. You'll get a lot of fizzle outers that start off hot and fizzle out later. But to have consistent greatness for 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, is just it's an accolade in itself. Just to compete, to play on that high level for so long, just like LeBron James is aging backwards. Like, dude is still dunking from damn near the free throw line still at almost 40 years of age. I'm like, ain't nobody else doing that. Vince Carter's knees were shot, and he's probably the best dunker ever. I'll say that, but and his knees are shot when it got to that age. But the way LeBron James trains or whatever drink he's drinking or whatever he's eating, he's keeping him playing. But it's gonna be fun to see when his son comes to the league. The league's gonna have fun with that one, pushing that narrative across there.
And I said this on this show before, like when I was in high school and early in my college career, I used to dislike Tom Brady because I used to be like, man, let somebody else win this championship. Let somebody else win the Super Bowl. Like, and I didn't understand how hard it was to be a professional athlete and get those accolades and win that much until I got there and I understood, like, man, dude, like this dude does this every year. In 20 years, he went to 10 Super Bowls and won 7. That's insane. And my respect for him went through the roof, right? And the same thing with LeBron James. I used to hit on LeBron. Just like, man, I don't like LeBron. I want him to have Kobe's mentality and Jordan's mentality and this, that, and the other. And then I understand how hard it is to be a professional athlete. How hard it is to play 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, every single day, beating your body up, playing 82 games, football, playing 16, 17 games, plus playoffs, 20-something games. It's hard to do. And you have to appreciate these guys when they do it at such a high level consistently over and over and over and over and over again. You have to really appreciate those guys. And, like, I think a lot of people don't. And people always think, like, oh, like, my heyday was the best day. And it wasn't good before that. It's not good after. And I'm like, that's not the truth. It's evolving. And appreciate the guys because, again, no great player was just in your 5-6 year heyday span. The great players did it for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. They did it over spans of different situations. And, like, LeBron played through when it was the back to the basket league and not the three-point league. Steph Curry did, like Tom Brady did. And then we're seeing Pat Mahomes in the passing league. And I'm sure before Pat Mahomes retires in the next 10 years, the league's going to change again. It's going to evolve again to something else. We're seeing baseball. Baseball's finally making changes in how they do things with there's certain rules and things like that. So, like, you see all these things change and appreciate greatness when you see it. When people do things consistently on a level and they're winning, it's like, dude, appreciate that and understand that. And again, I'm not saying get rid of your culture. I'm not saying get rid of your background, but understand how the game evolves and how things get better and better and better. And appreciate that and appreciate that you get to see it. Like, I got to see it. Again, I regret that I didn't get to. Michael Jordan was winning his last championship in 99. I was born in 94, right? Mm-hmm. So I didn't get to watch that, right?
Nope.
I got to see Kobe. And I appreciate that so much because I got to see Kobe play. I got to see LeBron play. I got to see Tom play. I got to play with Tom Brady. Like, I cherish those moments. I don't try to put that down and be like, I saw Tom Brady play and I saw Pat Mahomes play. And I'm going to see the next guy play. I'm going to see Caleb Williams, whoever the next great quarterback is. Right. And so I appreciate all these moments and not try to be like, oh, this one's better than this one. It's just like, hey, we appreciate these moments. We appreciate the situations. And then let's just, like, appreciate these guys and, like, move on from it. And we're always going to have to debate. We're media, right? I'm media now. You're media now. We're going to have these debates, but I always try to be respectful to these guys and understand where they came from and be like, hey, man, like, again, my criteria is always like, were you the best at your position in your era, right? Kareem was the best at his position in his era. Give him his respect. Shaq was the best at his position in his era. Give him his respect. But if you're going to tell me some guy who you love, Dr. J. Dr. J is an amazing player, an amazing great. But if you're going to tell me, oh, Dr. J is better than Shaq, I'm like, well, they played in kind of, Kareem, they played in the kind of the same era. He wasn't better than him. So let's not be like, oh, Kareem is better than Shaq. No, sorry. Dr. J is better than Shaq. He's not, right? So, let's talk about it in those terms and not try to diminish and be respectful about the things we talk about. And I think that's kind of how I approach things.
No, absolutely. You always push that narrative, and it's always the same. Yeah, you gotta not push errors because the times change. Everything's not gonna be the same. Like I said, you got Stars of Tomorrow coming up. What rule change is gonna say? How is the XFL now that that's out going to affect some of the rule changes and that? Anybody even thinking about that with some of the replay stuff that they're doing and the rules that they have? How's that going to change the game now? So stuff is always going to be changing, and that's a good thing. You should always be moving things forward. You should always try to stay the same every year out. You should always try to evolve and make things better for the league, players, and stuff like that. Player safety.
So I got some thoughts on the XFL. And
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, so I have. It's been fun to watch football because, again, after the Super Bowl, it's typically just like, okay, we have baseball spring training, which most people don't watch.
What's next?
Right? Yeah, right. And we have hockey. Most people don't watch the Stanley Cup. Most people don't watch baseball to the World Series, right? And the XFL being there and being able to watch games on Sundays has been a lot of fun. And initially, when I saw the XFL, I saw the kickoff rules. I saw the 1 point, 2 point, 3 point rules and the thing. I was like, man, like, if you're going to play football, play football. And I have to pause myself and understand, like, the XFL, right? I'll give them an example. They're not trying to reach a demographic as far as myself, who's been watching football since I was since I was freaking. They've been watching football. My demographic watched football since I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, right? The XFL wasn't big then, right? They're trying to reach the new demographic. They want, like, 1 point is 2 yards out. 2 points is like 5 yards out. 3 points is like 10 yards out. Whatever the thing is. The kickoff is they're 5 yards apart. They kick it off. You catch the ball. You run. Whatever it is. They're trying to reach a new demographic. People are streaming stuff on Twitch. There's kids watching. People watch XFL games. It's a different thing. So I have to take myself out of my prejudices as far as what I think football is, because again, the XFL is not going to compete with the NFL. You can't. You can't compete with the NFL as far as product. The players aren't the same, right? The best of the best is there. Same way, if you're playing basketball in Europe, Europe has great basketball. It's not the NBA. The CFL is not the NFL, right? The MLS is not the Premier League in soccer. It's not the UEFA Champions League. You can't compete with them. So how do I get new fans and new people to be interested? And so I have to kind of check my prejudices about how I feel about football when I'm watching the XFL and understand and appreciate their game for what it is. And I have a lot of friends playing the XFL, right? And so, like, for me, like, that's one of the ways that I have to check my prejudices and how I think about things and what I think football is, and be like, okay, hey, like, they're playing they're playing football in a place where I expect to know football, but I still love to watch football. And so how do I appreciate that game and not sit there and be like, oh, this isn't real football because you're doing this. This isn't this because you're doing this, right? And so appreciate it. And so, like, I say these things, but I'm still checking myself because I have those prejudices too. Because I grew up when you can hit a quarterback in the head. You can run over the middle and hit a receiver, and it's not a penalty.
Shit, on kickoffs, you wanted to obliterate the guy trying to block.
Yeah. And again, we can talk about – I want to talk about Hall of Fame stuff because there's no reason Devin Hester should not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. The fact that he got snubbed twice is insane to me. But again –
kick returns, you can't help but to mention his name.
He is the best kick returner collegiately, NFL, high school, ever. The fact that he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer is insane to me. But again, it's the prejudice you have. The people who vote, they're like, oh, well, he didn't play enough snaps. That's what I've heard. I've talked to people in the Hall of Fame committee, and it's always like, oh, Devin Hester didn't play enough plays to be a Hall of Fame player. He didn't get enough
plays. As a returner, not a wide receiver.
Exactly. He changed the game. There's no greater return than Devin Hester. People used to put the ball out of bounds so he wouldn't touch the football. Because if he touched the football, he was taking it back at least 30, 40 yards or to the end zone, right? And so, like, again, like, we have to take our prejudices out of it. And I'm just admitting to myself that I have the same prejudices, and I have to check myself to remove that and be like, hey, like, the game is different than when I grew up.
Right.
It's changed now, right? You can't hit the quarterback in the head anymore. So don't complain about it. Don't hit him in the head. Find a different way to sack him, right? You can't hit a receiver over the middle. Don't complain about it. Tackle him where you can tackle him, right? And make your plays and make your money. Because, again, you're making more money than the guys who hit the quarterback in the head. You're making more money than the guys who hit the receiver when they didn't have the ball, right? So understand it, evolve with it, and appreciate it.
Were you there for the Deshaun Golston when the Bucs had Deshaun Golston on the team where he was big hitter?
Listen, Deshaun Golston, I'll tell you a story right now that you might not know. Deshaun Golston, I committed to Michigan State as a junior. Deshaun Golston was my host at Michigan State. Right? Me and Deshaun Golston, our first day in practice, my first day in Tampa practice, I left school UCLA as a junior. I missed all of OTAs, so I wasn't allowed to go to OTAs this time because of the rules. First day of camp, first day of pads, I had one-on-ones against Deshaun Golston. I was playing guard, and Deshaun Golston was playing defensive tackle. And I blocked him, and Deshaun Golston grabbed my helmet and tried to rip it off, and me and Deshaun Golston got into a fight. He knew who I was. I knew who he was. We got into a fight. We got kicked out of practice. On the way out, he looked at me, he smiled, he said, I just wanted to see what you would do. I wanted to see if you was going to be mad about it or not. And we've been best friends ever since. I love Deshaun Golston. That is the football I grew up with. That's not the football that it is now. You can't fight. You can't argue. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can get out of practice now. But that's who we do things. Like, Deshaun Golston's a stud. Like, he recruited me at Michigan State. When I went on other visits, he used to DM me on Twitter. And before Instagram was big, he'd DM me on Instagram and be like, hey, man, like, I need you to come to Michigan State. Forget your Stanford visit. He didn't say forget, but forget your Stanford visit. You can't go to Stanford. Come to Michigan State. Like, that's how far me. I've known Deshaun Golston since I was 18 years old.
Right.
Me and Deshaun Golston's coach in Little League, rest his soul, he's passed away now. Like his little league coach is my uncle. Like that's how long I've known Deshaun Golston for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? Like we are like this, right? And so like that's what I grew up with.
That is interesting. To start a fight right out there first. To see what you got, kid.
First day, he just wanted to see. He literally was like, dude, I just want to see if you're gonna fight back or not. Because if you didn't fight back, he's like, I would have been punking you your whole career in Tampa. If you didn't fight back, I would have been punking you every single day in Tampa. Damn. But after that first day, he knew that like, hey, like I'm not messing with Caleb. But then it's a respect factor that comes with that. Jerome McCoy, same thing. And Dominican Sue, I saw Dominican Sue today at the gym when I went to go train. And I dapped him up. And there's a respect factor because he knows, like, hey, man, Caleb's going to go to work. Regardless what the situation is, whatever it is, he's going to go to work, right? And so, like, it's a respect factor. Like, we're all men in here. We're all alpha males. We were the best player in high school, probably our best player in college. And now we're in the NFL. Like, how are you going to fare with other men out here? Dudes got kids, and people don't understand that. Like, I was 20, again, I said this earlier. I was 20 years old when I got drafted. Deshaun was 25. Deshaun Golston was 25. He's got kids. He has a wife. All these guys got wives and kids that are married. It's like, okay, what you gonna do, kid? First day of practice. And I was like, dude, you're not punking me. We'll fight. We'll fight in the field.
We'll fight.
Listen, we'll fight on the field. We'll fight in the locker room. And then nobody has to hear about it. Because, again, nobody knew this happened. Right? We'll fight in the locker room. We'll fight on the field. We'll fight after practice. It doesn't matter. But we'll handle how we have to handle as men. And then there's a respect factor. Same thing with UFC fighters. You see all the UFC fighters, they have all this beef going into the fight. After the fight, what do? They hug. They're like, dude, I appreciate you. Thank you. Because, again, once you get that rage out, once you get that beef out, it's done. And that's how we handle things. And so, like, that's where I grew up. But, again, the game changes. The thing molds. Things evolve. And then you appreciate how it goes. And you don't take the young guys and say, like, oh, you got your soft or this, that, and other. No, the game just evolved. People are healthier. Back in the day, I'll talk about CTE a little bit. Back in the day, people were killing themselves.
Yep.
Less and less now, right? Because, again, we made the game better. It's like, oh, well, we used to be able to knock dudes' heads off when they come over the middle. Yeah, well, also, they would kill themselves when they got home in 10 years, right?
Yep.
Well, they don't anymore. So is your way that much better? Or are we making this game better? And do we still get to enjoy the thing that we enjoy and we enjoy football? And so it's like, for me, like, I appreciate the advancement. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, we all grew up in different eras and different times, but appreciate the advancement, how it gets better and better and better.
Yeah, that's what I said. Everything's got to evolve. You can't keep it the same forever. You're never going to get any adaptation in that. It's funny, even that with changing, with the hitting and the CTE. Think about how being a mobile quarterback was frowned upon. Now that's what everybody wants to look for. Now you want a guy that can extend plays.
Listen, you can't even be a quarterback in the NFL today if you don't have a mobile quarterback.
Funny.
You're a liability. They don't even have dual threat. Used to be like a stain on your record.
Yep.
Now, if you have no ability, imagine if Peyton Manning got drafted today. He'll be like a second-round pick.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Andrew Luck was the last quarterback who, like, oh, he can do both. He can run. He can pass. Yep. He's a great passer, this, that, and other. Peyton Manning, you can't even – Tom Brady, if he got drafted today, he'll be undrafted. He went 6th round, he'll be undrafted because that's how it works now. It's not about intangibles. It's about, dude, can you move around? Can you get out? Because, again, the game has changed, right? Offensive linemen aren't first, second, aren't 1, 2, 3, 4 picks, right? Jake Long is gone. I remember all those years, right? Like, so it's like the game has evolved so much. Like, before it used to be a knock on you to be a dual threat. Now it's like that's like the normal. You have to be able to move and adjust because, again, because of the rules and because of injuries and CTE and stuff like that, quarterbacks, and there's not enough time to train offensive linemen in the NFL. Nope. And again, I'm getting into coaching, and so I understand how it changes things and how, like, those things go because, like, again, I don't have all of OTAs 3, 4, 5 hours a day to get you out there and do drills. Like, offensive linemen have to come into the league ready to play.
Yep.
And the league is different than college and different than high school when you're getting 20, 21-year-old kids. And so it's like the game is changing. It's more spread out. It's a lot like, again, Texas was been on this early, 7-on-7. The game is more 7-on-7 than anything else now. right? I would rather put a young tackle in who's never played a game than put a young quarterback in that's never played a game, right? And so it's like, hey, man, go do your job, and I have a quarterback who can make it right. He get the ball out fast, get it to this, and so the game is evolving. And so it's like, hey, you can either get mad or make it work. And so it's like, dude, like it's changed for everybody. It's changed for O linemen, D linemen are the prize positions now. It used to be edge rushers. Now it's Chris Jones. Now it's Aaron Donald. Now it's interior guys. If you're doing the where the Washington Commanders play, if you don't have good guards in the center, you're in for a long day. You got the Payne, you got Durant Payne, you got the kid from Alabama, right? You got the kid from Ohio State. Like the deep tackles are getting better. Fletcher Cox, like I went through a series when my first year starting a guard where I played Fletcher Cox. I played the guy from the Falcons, number 97. What's his name?
Grady Jarrett.
Grady Jarrett. I played McKean Hicks. There was like 3 straight weeks of just like superstars making $15+ million a year where it's like you got to go. So you know what I'm saying? So it's like the game always evolves and changes. Like you can either adapt or complain. Right. And the players don't complain. The players adapt, right? And so it's like we all got to adapt and enjoy it and have fun with it. And just that's what makes it fun. Like,
no, that's exactly how the game goes. Like you got to, especially young offensive linemen, that's the best way you're going to learn. You got to catch up to the speed of the game. It's like jump rope. You got to jump in. You got to catch the beat, man. And you don't want the rope to hit you. The rope being this one, being playing against those veteran superstars that are defensive linemen now, studs. And as you and Randy both said, they're some of the best athletes on the field, being at the size and speed that these guys have. And you guys are backing up, trying to stop them while they're running forward. And these guys are running 4 or 5 40s and things like that. So it's just
oh, you know how I feel. I think defensive linemen, especially defensive end edge rushers, are the best athletes on earth. I'll stand on this hill and die on this hill. There is not a better athlete than Myles Garrett on earth. There's not a better athlete than Julius Peppers on earth than Von Miller. These edge rushers who are 6'3", 6'4", Julius Peppers is 6'7", Myles Garrett 6'5", who are 270, 290 pounds with 6-packs, who can dunk the basketball, who can shoot from 3-point range, who run 4.5s. The kid from Georgia, Davis, D tackle, he was 348 pounds. You ran a 4.7. Who do you know at 340 pounds?
Nobody.
Was a 6-pack. Nobody. That's who we have to deal with. So for me, it's like O-linemen got the hardest job. O-linemen then corners, right? Quarterbacks cerebrally and mentally got the hardest job, right? But as far as physically, those corners, which is why I love Sauce Gardner so much and what he does, but corners, offensive linemen, we are blocking the best athletes on earth because Myles Garrett will go. You go look up tape. He goes up there. He's 290-something pounds. He has a 6-pack. He's 6'5", dunking the basketball, shooting the basketball.
Yep.
He played for North Carolina. He played for the North Carolina basketball team.
Yep.
Everybody on the basketball team was a starter for them. Went to the Final Four and was a first-round draft pick, a defensive end. Played 18 years. In year 17, he had 10 sacks and led the Panthers in sacks. Like that stuff's not normal. So we're facing the best athletes, and so like you have to have thick skin and understand how the game evolves.
No doubt. It's either that or you get left behind if you don't adapt with the game. And it's like I said, you're seeing changes all over the league. Granted, offensive line's pretty much been the same. It's just they got to adapt to the, pass rushers and the way the game has changed. Quarterbacks can be more confident now because you can't hit them in the legs. You can't lay on top of them. It's changed all over. The DBs can't beat up on the wide receivers like that anymore. No. Now you have to really cover. And I get the point why you say those are two of the hardest positions because those are 2 spots that you have to go backwards with somebody going forwards. That's really hard to do. You have to match somebody's full speed going forward while you're going backwards, and then you got to adjust.
And I'll talk about like this with basketball too, like the hand checking, right? In the 90s, you can hand check.
Yep.
You can put your hands on guys. Now it's a foul, right? Same thing with football, right? Receivers, you get 5 yards to do whatever you want to do for 5 yards back in the day. Now it's a penalty, right? So it's like, DBs, are you going to complain that the Super Bowl got called a penalty on you because you were hand checking them?
Yep.
The whole way 5 yards was like, no,
you know holding them.
Yeah, so follow that. Those are the rules now. You can complain all you want to, but follow the rules. Same way when James Harden was getting 10 free throws a game and he was scoring 30 points a game and almost broke Kobe's record. Like, I'm not going to complain that he broke Kobe's record. It's like, you know the rules now. You don't get to just touch me anymore. So if somebody else figures out the rules better than you, they figure out the rules, but don't complain about it. Adjust and figure it out. Same way with anything. I'm sure back in the day, if you want to talk about food that was okay to go kill and eat in the country, and back in the day it was okay, you can go eat dogs and cats. Now it's not okay. Okay, well, now I can't eat that. Now I can't do this, right? So don't complain about it. Adjust to it and figure it out. And the people who figure it out will be considered greats, will be more successful, will do better. And that's really just all it is.
No doubt. You got to adjust. Well, we've been doing this for about an hour change. Any final thoughts?
You know, I got a lot of final thoughts, and I'm sure we'll talk again before the season's over. But again, guys, I love this. Love talking to you, Blake. You know, it's been fun, and I'm sure we'll do this again before the weekend's over. But it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, we'll be doing this again. We'll see how that goes. Check the emails out. Yeah, we'll get together again and talk it over. See what happens. Play it by ear. See what your schedule's like. Yeah, get your coach on here, and hopefully get some more guests out there. It's the off season. These guys are running around everywhere, so got to find a play jump rope and catch up with them because you know everybody's out doing their thing now. They got time off. Well, you never really got time off. You're always working, training, and everything.
Oh, come on, Aaron. Anyway, when do you want? Because again, hey guys, give you a little insight to our lives. Me and you and Blake. We're gonna have Coach Clem on here, former Oregon Ducks coach, former UCLA coach, former Pittsburgh Steelers coach. Now with the New England Patriots, Xavier Schulfield's going to get on here with us. He coaches at UCLA. When works for you, Blake? Because, you know, that's just to me. So we're going to have a packed show next time we come on here.
That's fine. I'll be ready at getting the notes. We'll settle that off here. Let me carry off of this. Well, and this as we always do. You're the master of everything. What you do with your life, what you do with it is entirely up to you. Thank you, guys. God bless. And as always, fire those cannons.
Yes, sir.